All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Michael Keith. I am the Director of Career Services. Most of you probably already know that, but I wanted to introduce our guest today. Um, he is a Dave School graduate from 2018, just a little over 5 short years ago. He has worked on many high profile feature films and was recently nominated for a VES award for his work on Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the Nowhere environment, which has been kind of playing on some of our TVs, as you guys may have noticed. He is currently an environments TD for Framestore, which is one of the most respected VFX houses in the world. It is my honor to introduce today's guest speaker, Mr. Benjamin Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Keith. My name is Benjamin Patterson. I am an Environments TD at Framestore Montreal. I have been with Framestore for about 3 years now. I'm a CG generalist. This means that I am familiar with kind of all parts of the pipeline, starting at modeling and previs, texturing, look dev, lighting, some simple effects, rendering, and then the first pass compositing. As a TD, my large portion of my work is more problem-solving technical issues, pipeline rendering, and kind of innovating some existing workflows. Recent projects that I've worked on have been Rings of Power, Rebel Moon, and Guardians. As Michael Heath stated, Guardians did earn me my first VES nomination. Yeah. So this is my current demo reel. The benefit of being an environment artist is usually like the scale and scope of the work we get to do. It goes everything from like hard surface modeling and texturing to foliage and scatters. We do our own lighting at Framestore, as well as like all the scatters and greebling. And for scenes like this, we do some simple effects to kind of help bring the shots to life. Here you can kind of see what most environment work is, the sort of set extension. And the goal of environments is typically, at least in my workflow, to always aim for a photo reel and to blend with the existing plates provided by the clients. Some of the shots like this one go pretty much full CG with very little plate work, or here where it gets a little bit more as like a foreground or background element necessary to complete the image. This is another example of an environment work where the very foreground horses and such are real, and then we extend all of the walls and such past that, and full CG, made to look as photoreal as we can. So yes, that's what I've been doing over the past 5 years. So before I came to Dave School, I went to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. I have a bachelor's degree in fine arts with an artistic, they focused on like teaching the artistic eye, visual expression, and creative problem solving. And it was good to learn how to become a strong artist. It was good to understand things like composition and how to build a pretty image, but it failed to teach me how to become that kind of professional artist and to be hired on to some of the larger studios. So my time between UL and Dave School, I spent a lot of time trying to apply for positions at these VFX studios and not really making much progress. So I went to the Dave School. It was one of the best years of my life. It was super fun. I had great classmates, but it was a really pivotal step for my CG career. It furthered those development of like problem solving, and I learned a more technical and proper workflow. But beyond that, it taught me to be like a professional artist, how to handle myself, but also how to like present my work, how to network, and how to produce a professional reel. So yeah, the Day School taught me problem solving. A lot of the work we do as VFX artists is not just like making a pretty picture. A lot of the work you end up doing is in trying to fix the issues, be it pipeline issues or rendering issues, limitations of certain workflows. There's always an issue, and you have to kind of, the solution or the image in the end is important, and however you get to that is the solution. So yes, once again, learning proper technical workflows, learning how to properly publish release models, keep a clean scene, and that's important for like teamwork and collaboration. A lot of times in VFX especially, you will like start a project or start a scene and pass it off to another artist, be it in a different department or even in your own department. So maintaining a clean and proper workflow is really important for that collaboration, and then also the communication between artists. Receiving feedback and criticism is probably 90% of the job. You know, every day we show our work, we show the projects that we've done or whatever small piece of a scene that we've accomplished in the last day, and you receive feedback from your soups, your leads, etc. And implementing that feedback is your primary job. Dave School taught me networking. They encouraged me to make a presence on certain platforms like LinkedIn. They encouraged me to reach out to artists who are already in the field, and also provided a good platform to do that. Being a Dave School grad, you have a plethora of alumni at a number of studios that are, from my experience, always willing to talk to you, to tell you what it's like at their studio, or to even help give you some feedback and help figure out your path there. And they taught me professionalism, how to present my work in a proper manner and how to handle myself in a professional artist position. My first job was the Technicolor Academy. The Technicolor Academy came and did interviews at the school. Their academy, Framestore has Launchpad, Rodeo has a bunch of internships, and there's a few others that float around there. And this is kind of the best way for a junior to get their foot into the door. They are more eager to just take people with almost no experience. Before the interview, I had already started to reach out to former Dave School grads and ask them kind of, what is MPC like? What should I show them? What should I ask, or what should I say? And with their feedback, I went ahead and did the interview on the campus. And they gave me a small note on one of the pieces that I showed on my demo reel. I went back, I iterated on it, I improved it, and then I emailed back that recruiter an updated demo reel showing that I had fixed the small issue that they had found. And I believe it's that kind of task, or showing that you will address notes and that you understand, is key to getting that first job. So my first job was directly connected to the academy. As soon as I started the Technicolor Academy, I started to put those lessons to networking to use. I reached out to artists who were already on the floor. I tried to build bridges and communicate with people who I was hoping to one day work with. I made sure to present strong professional looking art from the very beginning, even during my time in the academy, when it's more or less kind of school 2.0. And because of all this, on my first show was 1917. My lead, John Philippe, was my mentor during the academy. My soup was Jules Bodenstein, an artist who I'd already reached out to and I'd already met. And that's really how you kind of get onto your first big show, is that, once again, networking. You have to build that reputation of being a strong professional artist, somebody reliable, somebody dependable, and somebody who can make good work and hold themselves in a professional manner. And because I had done that in the academy, when my mentor went back to the floor and was going to start crewing his first show after the academy, it gave me an opportunity to join him and to work on probably one of the best shows I've worked on so far. It's sad that it was my first, but it really, that film opened the doors for me quite a bit. My next job was at Method. Getting your foot in the door in this industry is the hardest step. My second job, I didn't apply for, and I only sent them my CV after I had already signed the contract. I got that job because of connections I had already built off of previous shows, and by recommendations from artists who were in the industry for much longer than I had been. And that's, once again, that networking is key. Building relationships with those artists around you and always putting forward the best work you can. A lot of you have probably been to Dave School for at least a few months now, and you've already been building that reputation with your classmates. You want those around you to know that you're somebody who can help them get a task done, it's a pleasure to work with, and who produces good work. And your classmates will likely be your colleagues one day. Your colleagues will become leads and soups. And so it's important that you at all times be putting forward your best work and your kind of best self. My current job is at Framestore. I kind of fell into this job. Framestore purchased Method, I'm not even sure when. And then through the process of a merger, I was brought into Framestore. My first show was Guardians of the Galaxy at Framestore. It was an opportunity offered to me by a lead named Alejandro, who had heard about me from some people he knew at Method. And once again, that networking gave me an opportunity to prove myself. He had not seen my work yet. He had just heard of me, and he was willing to trust me with a very difficult shot, a very complex shot. And with a team of very talented artists, Fabian and Claudio and several other just incredible guys, we were able to earn a VES nomination. So it's a really good opportunity. So to like kind of just keep this short, the advice I give is networking, reaching out to former artists or current artists or individuals who have the job or work in a field that you want to be part of. As a CG environment artist, all of my workflows, all of my kind of point of view and my opinions come from being like a CG generalist. So if you reach out to me and ask for my input on your demo reel, if you ask for my input on like how to get a job, what should you be showing, what should you be saying, I'm going to come from that point of view, and that might not be the same amount of help to somebody who wants to be an animator or a lighter. So I really encourage the Dave School students to find an artist who's in the position that you want to be in and reach out to them, starting with, hey, I'm a graduate, I'm a recent grad, I'm going to be graduating. Can I show you my demo reel, etc. And like I stated before, Dave School has that kind of long history. I've yet to work at a single studio, and even most shows, I can find another Dave School grad on that show. So it is a good opportunity for you to just reach out, hey, I'm a Dave School grad. Can I show you my work? Can I get your feedback? And that's a good way to start building that relationship, start building that reputation. It's really key in this industry. Attitude. You do have to try to maintain that positive attitude. Shows can be difficult. There are times on every show that are not fun and are just challenging. But it's during those times that you really kind of show who you are as an artist. And you want to maintain that kind of somebody who's nice to work with, somebody who helps stay in there and stay positive and understands that we're all trying to do the same thing. We're trying to make a pretty picture. So attitude is kind of the next step. Always be learning. It's one of the best parts of the job, honestly, is there's always something new you can learn. There's always new technology, a new workflow, a new way of working. It keeps it fresh. You know, you don't have to do the same thing very long. It's always changing. I do recommend building a LinkedIn or an ArtStation or both, really both. LinkedIn is key. It's still to this day how the majority of recruiters and HR at a lot of these larger studios will try to get into contact with you. Most of interviews I've had or conversations I've had with recruiters start with them messaging me on LinkedIn. So it's key to have that platform and to have it be a way where you can get in contact with you, have a kind of separate email, a separate job hunting online presence, so that when you are needing either your first job or your second, it's going to be key. Don't do this. So my big don't do this is don't argue the note. It's something that I feel every artist needs to remember. Every artist needs to be reminded, even myself, that implementing feedback is like 90% of this job. And it doesn't matter if the note is tedious. It doesn't matter if the note is wrong. You should implement the note. And on that, if the note is wrong, you still implement it, but then also try to solve the note in a different way and show an A and a B, and show that kind of initiative and that kind of iteration and workflow is key to producing good artwork. It's also key to completing the shot or the scene that the client is looking for. So don't argue the note. And my don't do that is don't burn bridges. This industry is incredibly small. Ever since my first show, I've never worked on another show where I didn't know a single artist. And even my first show, I knew artists on the show. It's important that you not be nice for no reason, but to just not be somebody who's confrontational and to not go out of your way to start problems with other artists, or in general. It's so small, you will literally see the same person again and again and again. So creating issues is probably one of the worst mistakes that you can do in this industry. All right, I try to keep it kind of concise, kind of short, and hopefully any questions or anything. I'm happy to discuss anything at all, anything that's not currently under NDA. I'd be happy to answer, help you guys out with.
So what I'll do to kind of get the ball rolling while the students maybe think of some questions. I've got a question. When you left Dave School, you were focused more on compositing, and you're now an environments TD. Can you talk about the difference between those two roles and how you made that transition?
I was very interested in compositing to start with, yes. The difference in those roles is compositing is kind of the 2D in solution, the last step of the pipeline, whereas environments kind of exist throughout the entirety of the pipeline. It came about because of the reel I showed and because of the skills that I had. I was somebody who enjoys learning lots of different things, kind of jack of all trades, master of none type. So it fit me way better than compositing did. I've never liked to kick something back to another department or send it back to another artist. I'd rather just solve the problem myself and move on. And environments is kind of the key place where you can do that in VFX. If the solution is the lighting's not great, I fix the lighting. If I need to do the textures, I do the textures, modeling, looked at everything. And lately, at least at Framestore, we're doing all the way to final renders and even a first pass compositing before it goes to compositing. So I get to still do the compositing part, and I get to do a lot of other things.
The Nowhere environment from Guardians. We've had that up on the TV playing, and when watching that shot, watching all of those pieces kind of come together on that, it seemed like an overwhelming amount of geometry, work, texturing went into that environment. Can you talk about that for a minute, how that shot came together for you?
Absolutely. We had more than just me and a strong team. Especially a lot of the hero assets was done by a very talented modeler by the name of Claudio. I was more in charge of all those tiny little pieces coming together in the backgrounds and some of the detailing on the foregrounds. The way it comes together is through a lot of time. I think that I was on that environment in just that first opening the eye, not going into the city or anything. I was on that environment for probably 6 to 8 months. So through iteration again and again and improving note by note, that's how you kind of get there. As far as how it's done, a lot of that was fully procedural. All my workflows at this point are pretty much in Houdini. So the modeling and everything, I kept it as procedural and as live as possible. So addressing notes was easy, wasn't time consuming to make small changes. And those changes would propagate all the way to the end result with all of my look dev and texturing being done mostly procedurally. On the foreground element, there was a lot of hand painted masks, as you always end up with. For hero assets, you end up having to do a lot of hand painted work. We also had a really good leadership team who understood that kind of process, where we got strong base and we built from that and chased details at the very end when we weren't going to make a change that would impact all the way at this point. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, see a hand up. Jacob, you need to unmute Jacob.
I got it.
All right.
Go ahead, Jay.
Hi, I'm Jay. So you mentioned before that 1917 was your favorite show that you were ever on. So what set that one apart from other shows that you worked on later that really stood out and made it your favorite show outside of it just being your first show?
Outside of it being my first, it was the team. I had an incredible team with that one. And it was a very small team. We had 3 guys being environment artists, and then we had 1 lead and 1 soup. And it was a crazy summer. It was a very fast show in the grand scheme of things. A lot of late nights, a lot of long work, but it was that kind of just a good team, good guys to be with. It was super fun. And the goal of that project, sometimes you get these where the goal of the project is, it's Marvel, they want to sell films. They want to sell tickets to the theaters. And for 1917, West Side Story, a few others, you strike these where it's a passion project. And the feel of the show is entirely different because the goal just becomes, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how much it costs. I just want it to be pretty. And those are the best ones. Rings of Power was that way. It was super fun because we got those notes from the client that were like, it's good if you want to call it done. And we were like, well, I mean, there's 1 or 2 things more I would like to do. And they were like, yeah, go for it. And those are the best shows when it's just like, I'm giving my own notes and I'm just trying to make a cool image and I'm given the time and the ability to do that. You get onto some other shows and it's faster pace. The goals are very different. It's just, we want this image, we want it now. And, you know, it could be better and they don't care. That's kind of the difference. And you get those, you know, it's kind of like 1 good one, 2 all right ones, 1 good one, and it kind of goes like that back and forth.
I have more questions, but I'm giving students a chance to ask if they had anything.
Yeah, and I mean, anything y'all want to know what it's like in studio life, or any questions in specific about technologies we use, or anything at all. Like I said, I'm an open book. I'm happy to share.
Robbie,
So I'm sorry. Go ahead,
we
PJ.
have one more on just a second. Oh, Abigail.
Hi, my name's
Hi.
Abigail. You said you went to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. I'm also from Louisiana, and I just wanted to know what your experience was like, if you could go more into detail on what classes you specifically took over there.
I was a fine arts major with a focus in animation. My professor was Jan. I don't know if she's still over there or if you ever got the chance to meet her. My experience was, it is a very good fine arts school. And if I was interested in being a gallery showing artist, I was in the right place. However, I had never envisioned my life showing paintings in galleries or even animations in galleries. I wanted to make the cool movies and video games that I saw every day and that I loved, and I wanted to create in that space. Yeah, so my experience was, it's a great school. It's just a very fine arts driven school. I learned a lot, but not quite what I needed.
Just said thank
And I
you.
miss Lafayette every day. It's mostly the food.
I think Braden's class has one.
All right.
Yeah, we have 2 over here. So the first one is, how long after you graduated from the day school did it take for you to get that first position or land a job? I know you did that specific extra schooling type thing, but how long was that process for you?
Okay. I got incredibly lucky, and it was about a few weeks. I worked at a small studio called Monkey Chow in Orlando before ultimately getting offered the position at Technicolor Academy. It was about, I think, 2 months at the academy, and if you make it through the academy, you have a pretty good chance of going straight onto MPC's floor, at least at that time. And the way that MPC structures a lot of their shows is they're very kind of junior heavy, ground floor heavy. As students are looking for a job, I do recommend NPC as a good place to start. It's kind of hard because it's all juniors the whole way up, but at the same time, it gives you opportunities. So it was about 2 to 3 months, I guess, if you look at it that way, a little bit shorter if you look at the academy. As I said, I was very fortunate.
Yeah, awesome. So the second question that my class has is, so with the new technologies and AI, is there anything that Framestore is doing to try to integrate that or work with a pipeline that is using AI, or are they trying to fight against it? That's another side of the coin that my students are curious about.
It's a great question, and it's good to be thinking about that as a VFX artist. Framestore is kind of embracing the AI. We have made some posts and some job postings and so on, and every company in this industry is, of course, looking at it. My 2 cents and my point of view is that it's just another paintbrush. I myself have been learning and working with Stable Diffusion. I don't use it at work yet, but I assume that day is only coming. As for those who haven't messed with it so much, I will say it takes a lot more work than a lot of people give it credit for. It's not as easy as push the button and make the pretty picture. It's kind of, I think, the same way that people looked at VFX, 10, 20 years ago, where they're like, oh yeah, they push the button and it makes a pretty picture. And it's like, it's not that way. AI is a good thing to keep your eye on, and I think it's a question you should probably ask as many VFX artists as you can. I know my opinion's one way, and I know a lot of artists who disagree with me very heavily. So I would suggest you keep asking that question, but my take is it's just another paintbrush, and most, if not all, the companies are moving in that direction to make use of it in one way or another.
Robbie.
Good afternoon. I'm curious about the work life with working on the film 1917, because it's a historical film. Were you and your team given like historical documents and references and photography images to work on? And what programs did you use in developing that film?
Okay. Yeah, that is something that kind of varies heavily film to film as far as like what reference material you're given. And that's more of something that comes from the client side. So the variance is odd sometimes. 1917, we had lots and lots of reference material that was provided by the client. We had additional reference material that was provided by some of our leads and soups who were very well versed on the subjects of World War I and World War II. And so were able to give us a lot of, kind of high res images and written documents explaining like what it is we're building and where exactly we're trying to build and all that kind of information. Other films that did that was like Lord of the Rings had reams and reams and reams of this is what Tolkien envisioned and this is what it's supposed to look like. Other films, you get nothing. And it goes both ways. I think that 1917, Lord of the Rings were beautiful films. I think that Guardians turned out beautiful, and we were given very little other than it's a skull in space with a city inside it.
Fair enough.
Okay. We have to figure that one out. So it depends on kind of that client side, and show to show it'll vary. But yes, for 1917, we did. The tools were used. That show was mostly Maya, a lot of ZBrush. That whole river was hand sculpted by me and a few other artists. And then the texturing was all procedural, and we used Katana as our rendering solution there. I would say to students that technology matters it's good to have those skills and such, but what software you use changes wildly depending on what studio you're working at. And it's more important to have like a technical understanding of how how textures, how lighting, how rendering and all that stuff work, because you'll go to another studio and they're going to be like, hey, we don't use Maya, we're 100% Blender here. And you're going to be like, okay, well, modeling's modeling. And then that's sort of how you go with that. I know Framestore likes to use their own proprietary rendering situation, and Other studios are RenderMan every day, and it's always just RenderMan. So, but yeah, that one was mostly my own ZBrush.
Most of mine. All right. Thank you, Ben. Much appreciated.
Peach? Yeah, we're gonna cycle through everyone, make sure they have. CJ?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Whoa, yeah,
Oh, sorry. You just answered the question, so never mind. Thank you though.
Okay.
Okay.
It was
Serafina?
Good at this. We're getting like double questions done. This is kind
Efficiency.
Hello. I just have a
Hello.
small work-life related question, but were there any jobs that you had to relocate for? And if so, do you have any tips for people who need to relocate for a job?
Yes. For this industry, relocating is kind of unexpected. It's kind of what happens. We work almost 100% remote at Framestore, at least Montreal, and yet we are all here in Montreal. It's necessary for tax purposes, to be 100% honest with you, is the way the industry works. But seriously, movies are based on tax credits, and a lot of what goes into where am I going to film this film and where am I going to have this film produced is where those tax credits are. And the artists need to be located within that region. So relocation is frequent. For the past 5 years, I've been in Montreal, in Canada. As far as like tips for that go, it's easier than you think it is. It's scary. I'm not gonna like lie to you and be like, yeah, you know, I moved to Canada and it was totally fine. It was, I had about 2 days notice. Technicolor, we have an academy starting in February. I believe it was February 6th, and I got told on February 4th, and I was like, they were like, do you want to be in this academy or the next? And my answer was this academy. And me and my roommate packed the car up, and I think we peeled out of there. I don't think we got to say goodbye to Michael Keith. We caught a few professors on our way out the door, but we just like, we're like, got a job offer, I'm leaving. The benefit of this is all of, like, everyone I work with is not from Montreal. I work with guys from Spain, I work with guys from Germany, Mexico, a little bit from Canada, but really not many, mostly Brits and French. We all relocated here. It's most of them. We all relocated here, so everybody's in the same boat. So there is kind of a community in a community, if that makes sense. Like you have a community of people who've also just recently relocated right there with you, who are going through all of the same headaches and hassle and stress that you are. As an American going into Canada, it's fairly easy. It's, you show up at the border and you say I'm an American, they raise an eyebrow, they kind of look at you like, okay, do you have to be here? You show them some papers that your company provides that say you have to be here, and you move on through the border. It's really quite that easy. And then all the major studios have immigration teams. I have a Framestore, there's a couple people I email every year with, I need my job, permit updated. This year I need a new passport. So I messaged them and they're like, okay, this is the form you fill out. This is how you do it while you're away. There is a lot of support there. So I wouldn't stress about it. That said, some of our industry is very remote. After COVID, some of it went remote and never went back. Framestore has an office. It's hybrid. We all show up to the office maybe once or twice a week. Some of us less than that, some of us more than that, but it's kind of free form. Some studios are going to be very much like you have to be in the office. They both have their benefits, to be totally honest. And sometimes I kind of wish to be back in the office more. So.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Hey Ben, my name is Luke Calder. I'm the game instructor here for Dave School, previously Epic Games and ILM.
Cool.
So one of the things that I find most fascinating is when I'm not a Dave School grad, and you are, is that my first month on the job taught me about everything I needed, more than everything I knew at the school that I went to. So can you, and this may be kind of a tough question to answer, but can you give us a little bit of insight as far as like your first month on the job. What were some of the new things that you weren't expecting that you learned? What was kind of the technical adjustment that you had to have? And I can speak to it for myself, but I guarantee my students are tired of listening to me and some of the other instructors. So it'd be great to hear from your perspective.
Absolutely. I would say everything. You learn a new everything when you get to the job. Like, I'm sorry about that, but school is teaching you how to learn, if is the best way to describe it. And then when you get on the job, you learn everything you actually need to know. Pipeline was like a shock, to be 100% frank with everybody, because at school you have like, oh, I hit file save, I name it correctly and put it in the right folder, and my professor is happy with me. I get my grade, we move on. But in a pipeline, there is no file saving, and all of your scenes, all of your scripts, everything go into a kind of automated system that changes wildly from studio to studio. And that is something that you can't prepare for, because no studio tells anybody how their pipeline works. It's all proprietary, it's all secret. And so you show up on the first day on the job and you're like, well, I have this model that I would like to render, and trying to learn like the 96 steps at this company to make that happen. Or at some companies, the one button solution. Depends. So that was a big like technical shock for me. The things you would think would be a technical shock that are not, like most studios run Linux, and I was like, never touched Linux, showed up there, and honestly, it's like maybe 2 days, and you're like, oh, I just type in Maya, and now Maya opens. Okay, so that part of the technical stuff, not that bad. Kind of the daily ebb and flow of things. There's a lot more meetings than I was ever expecting. There's a lot more, especially between departments and stuff like that. I guess that's the stuff I kind of learned when I first got on the job that first month.
Cool, thank you. Anyone have any other questions? I have a couple more for him. Okay. So can you talk about your lead and like review process as much as you can, and what that's kind of like in a day-to-day basis for you? Are you
just
modeling string and then you're submitting it to a lead, or you submitting it to ShotGrid and that kind of stuff? Like, what is your kind of review process from as an environment TD?
All right, so currently the way it works is, and it can change a little bit show to show at that point, because it depends on your production and how they're feeling. Line producers especially, some are super involved and some are not. On my current show, I have rounds in the morning, which is I meet with production, and production kind of talks to me about like deadlines. We need this by this time so that animation can start. I need this done so that comp can start, and etc. And then right after that, I have rounds with my leads where I show the work that I plan to show to the soups later that day. And they may give me small notes. They may say it's fine. They may say, you're not showing this today, it'll scare them. So, I mean, in all honesty, I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes, especially in environments, it's broken. So then we go from that to showing to soups. Usually your CG soup. Some shows run it so that environments always shows to the CG soup, and some shows do CG soup and VFX soup together. Your CG soup is a technical supervisor. Their background usually is like effects or animation, etc. And they'll give you those kind of notes like, your rendering is too slow, you need to optimize this, your passes are broken, etc. And they're kind of more worried about like, does it technically work? And your VFX soup is the closest thing you typically get to like speaking to the client. The VFX soup is the one who's going to communicate directly with the client, be it the director or a long line of producers, depending on the show. And so their feedback is kind of the like key feedback on the show, where you get the more typical notes. Your composition needs work here. Can we move that bush 3 inches to the left? I want that to be slightly less green, etc. So then you address those notes. If you can, by end of day, you'll show again offline review is what we call it, where you ping either the CG Soup or VFX Soup and chat with a version like, hey, could you look at this version real quick and tell me if I'm in the right direction? And then the next day you start it again. We show probably, 2 to 3 times a day. On a lot of shows recently, we have environments with the CG Soup and VFX Soup, and then in the mid-afternoon, there's mixed dailies, which is kind of a catch-all. Anybody's showing in that. It's a little harder to show in that one. So like if you miss like your version wasn't out in time for environment dailies, then you have to show in mixed dailies, and usually that's filled with lighting and filled with effects. So you might not get seen. So there is another one. If you want to show 4 times a day, you can do that. Yeah, showing your work is like 90% of what we do. And apart from that is you should always be showing other people working with you. If you are both working on a scene, like say I'm doing a big mountain and somebody else is doing the river in front of the mountain, we're like either in a call multiple times a day, or if we're in the office, we're sitting next to each other and we're showing to each other constantly, because our stuff is going to have to work together in the end.
Cool. So
I hope
you
that
get
answered the question.
you probably get what, 4 hours of actual work a day?
Yeah. And it goes down, as I've learned, like the higher up you get and like the more technical you get, suddenly you have less, because now they want you in like a meeting, like for whatever reason, or
Right.
oh, you need to talk to lighting for an hour, and yeah, you just end up with meetings all day.
Yeah. I don't like being a teacher, actually.
Yeah. Very much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then you get up to lead, and then you are a teacher again. My lead, they deal with me all day. Why is this broke? Why does this not work? What's wrong with this? And then they have to sit there and show me. And, you know, I'm starting to get to a point in my career where a portion of my day is also spent on a call with another artist going, well, here's a process that will do what you're trying to do. So, yeah, there's a lot more than just making art, which is, that's another kind of skill you learn on the job.
That's a no questions for him.
I mean, I got one.
All right.
I have an interest one.
All right, Trev, go ahead.
At the hot seat right here.
So, okay, I'll swing around. This is more just an interest one, just because I'm curious.
All right.
Hey, I'm Trevor. I'm the Block 4 game instructor, so all things
Cool.
Unreal.
That's awesome.
He's actually Block 3.
Oh, yeah, I'm Block 3. I don't know where I am. I don't know what day it is. It's been a long week.
Yeah.
So you are an environment TD currently. So when you were graduating Dave School, what did you think you were going to be?
Oh, good question.
When I graduated, I thought I was going to be a compositor. A few weeks after graduation, I was pretty sure I was going to be an environment artist. Yeah, I guess. So then I became an environment artist and kind of been doing that ever since. I
Awesome.
don't have any interest of going into another department. I've thought about making the switch over to games, but I'd still just want to be environment and be on the technical side. You get to do more stuff, and more of the picture is stuff you did.
Cool.
Awesome, thank you.
If I can sway anybody to just be environment artists and CG generalists, it's
Yeah, we got quite a few. I think in my brain went back to when we were in a 5-block schedule instead of the 4-block.
There was a 5.
There was a 5-block, years and years.
Yeah, we've got another one here from animation.
Cool.
My class wants to know, like, what does your average work day look like as far as how many hours you're working? And as a follow-up to that, does that stay the same throughout a project?
Oh, okay, like that many. All right, because I was like, we have a lot of meetings, and then you work for about 4 hours. Yeah, that varies wildly. On average, most days, 8 hours a day. You get a 1 hour lunch break. Most people try to take their lunch break at the same time. Some studios are more freeform about when those hours happen. Some are very rigid. You know, you work 9 to 6, 1 hour lunch break at noon. Other studios are like, somewhere in the morning to somewhere in the evening, get 8 hours. As far as like, does that say the same throughout a project? I would like to say yes, but a lot of times the answer is no. I've worked on lots of projects without ever doing an hour of OT. Guardians is a great example of that. We did the whole thing without, I think I worked 1 hour of OT one night. And that was really it. Lord of the Rings was that way. 1 hour of OT, one time in the middle of the project when there's just something I needed done for the next day. Other projects like 1917, like lost count of hours. It was a real crunch. It was a very long crunch. And that does happen. That has to do more with like what the project is, what their budget is, what the show and how it was bid and what production's doing. It's hard to predict that. As for students and especially young artists, on that kind of note, the thing I will always state is you never work free OT. You do what you are paid to do and what you're asked to do. But, you have to come first. Your health has to come first. Don't hurt yourself for it. It's not worth it. It really isn't. It never is. And there is no reward for those who go beyond that. But in this industry, yes, there are going to be those weeks. I just came off of a pretty rough month. This past one, we had client sends, tight project, is what it is.
So we have one more, but I just want to say that I'm pretty jealous of you having to work on a Roger Deakins film. So I'm just going to say that. I'm jealous of that. But we have one from Stephanie right here.
Yeah, Stephanie, I'm an inspiring environment artist and texture artist. And I know we've talked kind of generally about what advice you would have, but what advice would you have for someone that wants to go into environment art specifically?
On your reel specifically, you should show photoreal kind of plate extension. That was the project that I had on my reel that helped get me into MPC. And the one that they gave the note on was I took my phone, I went out into the theme park and I filmed a group of buildings and I extended those buildings up 1 floor taller. Not the most creative thing in the world, but it showed that technically I could do the job. I could extend an environment because that is mostly what we do. Like even if for Guardians, if you saw that in the demo reel where they have a set, they built the first floor of Nowhere Main Street. And what environments is the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 100th floor. It is the city beyond, it is the streets going into the distance. And that is most of what we do. Showing like full photoreal, full CG is cool, but that doesn't show the skill that they're looking for. Because a lot of people can make a pretty environment. It's making it blend with the plate. It should move. It should have to have been tracked. All of that helps a lot. Apart from that, showing a multitude of skills helps get you into environments because when you apply for a job, if they see a lot of different skills on your demo reel, they typically just shove you into environments anyway. So for guys who are interested in modeling, we have a lot of them that end up in environments just because they had a bunch of student work on their reel and some of it was modeling and some of it wasn't. So they got stuck into environments because they're like, they're a modeler with some extra abilities. Environments. So I hope that answers it. So yeah, but specifically extend a piece of footage.
We have a question in the chat from Marielle. Ivan would like to know if you were nervous after being hired at your first job.
Yes. I was nervous after being hired on my second job. I was nervous my first day at Frame Store. There's sometimes my first day on a new show and I'm nervous. Like, yeah, that's human. We deal with it. A lot of people are. I mean, even to this day, there are times where I have dailies, I'm showing something for the first time and I'm nervous. It's all right. It's okay to be nervous.
All right, we are coming up on the hour mark. If anybody has any last minute questions, this is the time. I'll ask the last question then, Ben. What has been your favorite project to work on and why?
I think my favorite project to work on, it's tied between 1917 and Lord of the Rings. It probably has to be Lord of the Rings because there's a 12-year-old inside my heart that loved Lord of the Rings. And even if Rings of Power is not Lord of the Rings, it was close enough that the little 12-year-old in my heart was just happy that I did it. I did the thing that I set out to do, worked on the show that I loved, and it was kind of that like big I did it moment.
Nice. Well, listen, Ben, it was great catching up with you today. It was great getting your advice, and I appreciate you talking to our students and giving them a little bit of summary of your experience. Are you open if somebody wanted to reach out to you, like via LinkedIn, and connect with you? Are you okay with that?
I absolutely am. I practice what I preach, so feel free to reach out to me. I'll try to answer your questions in the best time I can, but yeah. And throw a wide net. Like I said, there's a lot of Dave School grads, starting with I'm a current Dave School student. You can reach out to a lot more than just me, but cast a wide net would be another big tip. Apply to lots of jobs, message lots of artists, give yourself the best opportunity possible.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Ben, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And, keep in touch as you work on some more cool stuff. I'm always looking for content for my newsletter.
Will do. Thank you, sir.
All right. Take care, Ben. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.